Hello, how are you? Welcome to our second part of the conditional grammar lesson. Okay, so today we are going to see the second conditional and the third conditional. So last time we have seen the zero conditional and the first conditional. So today we deal with what's the second conditional and the third conditional. So let's go. And the second conditional, what we call conditional type 2, we have if clause here. This is the rule if clause IC in the simple past, and the main clause MC, word plus verb. Alright, we can use the second conditional to talk about impossible situation. We can use the second conditional to talk about impossible situation. Yeah. Examples: if I had $1 million, I'd give a lot to charity. See? If there were no hungrier people in this world, it would be a much better place. If we were in Ouagadougou today, we would be able to go to the free Sanabo concert in the Revolution Place. I think that's clear. Yeah, the if clause here I have written in blue here. You see, if I had $1 million, and if there were no angry people in this world, if we were in Ouagadougou today, see, all these are if clause, right? In the simple past. Look at here. We have our verb is in the simple past. Our verb is in the simple past. You will see our verb is in the simple past. I change the color. Simple past. Our verb is in the simple past. All right. Okay. Is in the simple past. Let's go. If I had 1 million, all right, dollars, I'd give a lot to charity. If there were no angry people in this world, if we were in Ouagadougou today, you see, there are many things you can use. Notice that after I, okay, or he, or she, or it, we often use the subjunctive form. We often use subjunctive form were and not was. Some people think that were is the only correct forms, but other people think was is equally correct. You see, here we have some problems with the grammars. Okay, now notice that after I, he, she, or it, we often use the subjunctive form were. This subjunctive form were and not was. Some people think that were is the only correct form, but other think was is equal correct. Okay, if I were in Koudougou, I'd have local beer every day. If she were really happy in her job, she'd be working better harder. Alright. If the customer were to enter our market, we will have big problems. You see, we are here. If I were, okay, if she were, and if the customers were, you see, alright, very simple. Alright, we go ahead. The contacted form would, we would here, contacted form would, we have would here. Alright, the contacted form would, could, Conjunctive form would, could, or should is the same. Is the same here, and we add apostrophe D. The contracted form of would is apostrophe D. The contracted form of could is apostrophe D, and the contracted form of should is apostrophe D. All right. I would, is it I'd, or she could, or she'd. Right. Notice the form if I were you. If I were you, which is often used to give advice. If I were you, we use it to give advice. If I were you, I'd change my job. If I were you, I'd change my job, or I would change my job, or I should change my job. You see, we can also use the second conditional. We can also use the second conditional to talk about unlikely situation. We can also use the second conditional to talk about unlikely situations. If I won the lottery, I'd buy my parents a big house. If I won the lottery, I'd buy my parents a big house. Alright. If I went to the moon, I'd bring back some moon rock. If I went to the moon, I'd bring back some moon rock. If you met him, you'd really like him. If you met him, you'd really like him. You see, very simple. Okay. Now we continue. Notice that the choice between the first and the second conditional. The first. Notice that the choice between the first and the second conditional. All right. Notice that the choice between the first and the second conditional is often a question of the speaker's attitudes. The speaker's attitudes, if we want to choose, we want to make the difference between the first and the second condition. It depends on what? It depends on the speaker's attitude. Alright. Rather than the facts. For example, consider two people. Peter, who is pessimist. Peter is pessimist. I'll put it in red. Peter is pessimist. Alright. And John optimist. Okay. Peter says, if I win the lottery, I'll buy a big house. Peter says, if I won the lottery, I'll buy a big house. I'd buy. Say here. I buy. You say I buy here. Now we go ahead. John said, if I get promoted, I'll throw a big party. And Peter said, if I got promoted, I'll go throw a big party. Now John said also, if my team wins the cup, if my team wins the cup, I'll buy champagne for everybody. Peter said, if my team won the cup, I'd. You see, here I'd buy champagne for everybody. You see the difference between. So it depends on the speaker's attitude. You mustn't forget this. Very important. Notice that the if clause can contain the past simple or the past continuous. Notice that the if clause can contain the past simple or the past continuous. If I was still living in Britain, I would commute by train. Okay. If they were thinking of coming, they would let us know. If they were thinking of coming, they would let us know. All right. If she were coming, she would be here by now. If she were coming, she would be here by now. Now let us continue quickly. Now notice that the main clause. Can contain would. The main clause can contain would or could or might. Right. If I met him again, I wouldn't recognize him. If I met him again, I would recognize him. If we met up for lunch one day, I I could take you to that new restaurant. If we met up for a lunch one day, I could take you to that new restaurant. Okay. If I spoke to him directly, we might. If I spoke to him directly, we might be able to reach an agreement. We must be able to reach an agreement. All right. Yeah, might here. Now we continue. Also notice that. Sometimes the if clause is implied rather than spoken. The spoken is implied rather than spoken. Rather than spoken. You have to notice. Okay. Rather than spoken. All right. What would I do without you? What would I do without you if you stopped working here? You see, where would I get one at this time at night? Where would I get one at this time of night? If I went looking for one, I'm not sure I'll get one, okay, of time, because it's night time. We wouldn't agree if we asked him. We wouldn't agree if we asked him. You see, then we have the second conditional. We have to keep in mind that we use it to use the second condition to talk about impossible situation. Impossible situation. And if you use I, he, she, and it, we often use this with the subjunctive form. Where and not was, but sometimes people use was. Okay, the conjunctive form, I think that you know the conjunctive form of would, could, should. We just use apostrophe and d. All right, we can also use a second condition to talk about unlikely situation. Unlikely situations. Okay, don't forget it. Okay, we can choose between the first and the second condition if the question, if the question depends on the speaker's attitudes. All right. Notice that if clause can contain the past simple and the past continuous. All right. Also, we have to notice that sometimes the if clause is implied rather than spoken. All right. So let's move on. The third conditional. Okay. The third conditional type 3. We have if clause IC past perfect, the time we have to use, and the main clause MC would have plus past participle. We can use the third condition to talk about impossible conditions. Okay, we can use the third condition to talk about impossible condition. Impossible conditions. Impossible conditions. Impossible because they are in the past, because they are in the past. Here we are in the past, because we are in the past. We are in the past, because they are in the past, because they are in the past, and we cannot change what had happened. We cannot change what had happened. Right? Example: if I had worked harder at school. If I had worked harder. You see, the tense is past perfect. Past perfect. If I had worked harder. If I had worked harder. If I had worked harder. All right. If I had worked harder. If I had worked harder at school, I would have got better grades. All right. If and here I would have got. You see here, this is the main clause. The main clause we have would have plus past participle. Would have plus past participle. Will have plus past participle. So I'm going to put it in blue. All right, that's good. Okay, right. If I had time, I would have gone to see him. But I didn't have time. All right. If you have bought that house, you would have had to rebuild the kitchen. Okay, if you had bought the house, we would have had to rebuild the house. Alright. Now, if we had caught the earlier train, we would have got there on time, but we were late. You see? Now, let's continue. Notice that the main clause can contain would, could, or might. If I had seen him at the meeting, I would have asked him, but he wasn't there, so I didn't. If I had seen him at the meeting, I could have asked him, but he wasn't there, so it wasn't possible. If I had seen him at the meeting, I might have asked him, but I'm not sure. Perhaps if the opportunity had arisen. Alright? If I had paid more attention in class, I would have understood the lesson. If I had paid more attention in class, I would have understood the lesson. Alright. Also, to finish the conditional third form, also notice that sometimes the if clause is implied rather than spoken. It is implied rather than spoken. You have to keep it in mind. Sometimes it is implied rather than spoken. Implied. Okay. Let's see. Sometimes it is implied. So you have to put this sometime in mind. Okay. Also, notice that sometimes the if clause is implied rather than spoken. I have done it. If you had asked me, but you didn't. You see, but you didn't. So it's very complicated. I wouldn't have said that. Alright. If I'd been there, alright, he wouldn't have let him get away with that. He wouldn't have let him get away with that if he had tried that with me. So you see, the first condition with conditional is very simple. You have if clause, past perfect, and the main clause or would have plus participle. I have just said that we use the conditional, third conditional to talk about impossible conditions. Okay, to talk about impossible conditions. Impossible because they are in the past. You can go back in the past. So you have to continue. You have to go in the future. You can go back. That's why we say it is impossible. Alright, and we cannot change that. You cannot change what has happened. Already it has gone. You can't. Alright, I have given some examples, and we have noticed that the main clause that contain would, could, or might. Okay, you can contain that. So no, the main clause can contain would, could, or might. Right, and to finish, to sum up with what I just said, also we have to notice that sometimes the if clause is implied rather than spoken. So you have to revise all the lessons on the conditional, the zero conditional, the first conditional, the second conditional, and the third conditional. You have to revise them and try to put it in your daily conversation. You have to try. If you try, you do your best, you will overcome this, and I'm sure you can. Thank you very much. Bye for now. See you.